What's good, brother? Are you?
Hey, I'm good, man, and I'm amazing. Actually, I'm feeling much better now and ready to kick 2025. Yep, I'm ready.
Yeah, 2024 was a bumpy road, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, uh,
Yeah, man.
it was a hell of a road, and actually, but it was a It's a learning process, right? So
Yeah.
I guess
You got to see, I've started to live my life like every single thing that happens in my life. I try to see it as a lesson, like not a lesson, but a teachable moment. Like, yeah, this is trying to teach me something. And by seeing it like that, it's more like the part of my brain that likes to figure shit out, because that's the part of my brain that loves to figure shit out. For some reason, it's very active, always active in my mind. So I'm always creating something in my mind all the time. That's what I realized the other day. I'm at work, and a lot of the time at work I'm by myself, so I have a lot of time to just be inside my head all the time, right? It's like I do a job that I've been doing for a long time, so it's like very like easy to just do it without thinking.
thinking.
So I spend a lot of time in my head, and the other day I was like, fuck, man, I just constantly creating in my head scenarios, things that I don't think it's healthy all the time. I think there's a part of it that I think I need to like kind of step back and just be present, because I'm never present. I'm always either
But at least I think at least at the same time you notice about it, like you know that you're in your head. It's
right,
you caught yourself in the moment, and you're like, okay, like I'm overthinking. Let's get back to some like to serious or something,
right,
But and then I think it's also good to always maybe think of something, but not overthink. Also,
right.
it's the that's the kind of the gray zone. Sometimes you overthink of stuff that you're like, no, I shouldn't overthink about it like too much, and just
Yeah, that's a uh, 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 that's something that I really need to work on. I used to be a lot worse. Now I kind of like, if I'm really passionate about something and I think it's a really good idea, I just try it.
Mhm.
Like I've gotten to the point where I'm like, just fucking do it. And if it works out, it works out. And if it's you'll quickly know, quickly realize. I tell myself that I'll quickly realize that it's either for me or it's not for me. Like whatever I'm doing, right? But yeah, it's just weird sometimes. I try to not overthink things as much anymore, but I'm trying hard to be more present, to
The
not
moment
worry about what's coming up as much. Just be
in
present,
the now.
focus on what you're doing. Yeah, like in the now.
Yeah,
It's hard for me because
looking ahead.
I'm looking ahead, but for the past few years, because I've decided to work on myself and really like get down to the bottom of who I am and the things that I need to fix to become a better person, and become a better father, become a better husband,
That's talking to me right now. I think that's where I'm at
right?
right now. Like I know me and you had a kind of a good conversation a couple weeks,
Yeah,
and I think that's why we really connect now because I think that's
right.
where I'm at right now. I'm really trying to,
That's your season right now.
yeah,
You're in that season.
exactly.
I've been through that season, and I'm just coming out of that season. Like a lot of the times, like I remember when the pandemic hit, and that's where everything changed for me,
Hmm.
because there's a few reasons why I think it did. And if I really think about it, I haven't really thought about it, but quickly, if I think it ignited an instinct at me that was dormant in me, this instinct of like, dude, like this is anything could happen at any moment, right? And it's
Nothing
not
is
like,
guaranteed actually. Like
right. But not only guaranteed, like life, I kind of understood that I could not wake up tomorrow, something could happen.
mhm.
Like I can't really dwell on that, but I think it was more of like shit, like things can break down to the point where you're going to have to be, I wouldn't say it scared me, but I think it made me realize that I needed to become, this might sound weird, but I needed to become like a weapon for my kids and for my wife in case
Did-
shit got to a point where I needed to be that weapon. And I'm not just talking about a physical weapon that I've been working on for many years. I think it was more of the emotional weapon. Like I needed to be able to be an emotional support. I was able for years to be the physical support. Like if we're in an area and I needed to be able to protect my kids and my wife, like I'm confident that I could do that. Not easily, but that I could protect my family.
Hmm.
But it was more on the emotional level. Like I realized that emotionally I was fragile. And as a man, I think there's requirements if you're going to be a certain man. I'm not just a man, I'm a father and I'm a husband, and I take those roles in my life extremely seriously.
Hmm.
So I needed to bring things in my life that were going to help me sharpen all the tools for me to be able to be that weapon if needed.
If needed.
Right? It's like, you ever hear the saying, I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. Like, I'd rather be able to kill you with my own
If I
hands
need
and
to,
never have to than have to and not be
go
able to.
to. Yeah.
Do you understand? Like, and I think there's a lot of people right now deciding to be a gardener because it's the easiest path in life. And I see it in a lot of men, unfortunately. And I personally believe it's a reason why society is heading in a certain direction
Mm.
for certain people. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just seeing from observation. I feel like if I accept my responsibility to be a husband and a father, to raise kids in what I believe to be a correct way, a right way, you need to be able to look at yourself and realize, like, shit, like I'm being hypocritical if I'm asking this of my kids and I'm not doing it myself. So I need to work on myself. I need to become the leader so that one day my kids can surpass me. Obviously, that's the goal. But we're not there's, like you said, you're in your season right now, and I've been through there, and there's nothing wrong with me being ahead of you in certain ways. And I feel like sometimes people feel threatened when they see someone that they perceive to be ahead of them in a certain area in life.
I don't think. Well, I feel like it's a. I wouldn't say a weak minded way to see it, but if you see somebody's ahead, it's for you to say like, okay, get up, get your ass up, and
Hmm.
just do the work. Because
Right.
if he's ahead of you, that means that he put in the work and he was maybe in a situation before you. Everybody got their own timing. So I'm
That's right.
like you said, it's my season now. You were in that season in 2020. 2020 for me was a great year. It was like, okay, everybody shut down. Everything is good. I'm good. My
Yeah.
job is secure. Everything is, let's take a break. Okay. I'll go home at 8 o'clock. No problem. You know what I mean? I'm a night bird. So I'm going to be home. No, nothing is outside. I'm going to save my money and everything. But for
Yeah.
some of the people, it wasn't the case. And like you said, now that I'm actually, and I do agree with you that I have to be a better person emotionally also because, but I wouldn't say emotionally as you. I would say maybe I have to be more selfish for my side, on my side. I
Mhm.
used to be
Yeah,
the guy
of
that
course.
always go here and here and here and here. But what about me? You know,
Right.
second, it was what about me? What about what I need right now? I need to focus on me. Let me get to that dark side. Let me get in that cave. I'm actually listening to a lot of motivational, motivational videos, and they're
Yeah.
mostly talking about monk mode and ghost
Right.
mode and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, you're probably listening to the same stuff that I listen to. Dude, I have a playlist on my phone that I listen to. I have like 20 of them. They're all like 9 minutes long.
Hmm.
And they just two, three guys constantly repeating the most. It's all the same message. But I used to play that all day in my head when I was at work.
Hmm.
Dude, it brought me through some rough times, and I'm very grateful for those words that I live my life by now. Some of them, you
Okay,
know.
but those rough times brought you to where you're at now, right? If I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
hundred
So
percent.
yeah, so I think it's part of the process, part of the path. You have to go through it. Everybody's gonna go through it at their own timing or
Right,
whatever. But yeah, man, I do agree with you on most of the stuff that you're saying right now.
right. It. I think that the important thing that I realized in the last few years is how important it is to stop and self-reflect on yourself.
Absolutely.
And it's the thing that's I know why a lot of people don't do it because it sucks. It sucks to sit there and tell yourself, I need to stop doing that.
Yeah, because
I
you
need
can't
to
lie to yourself. At one point, you won't be able to lie.
right.
You could lie to everybody. Like social media, this is a lie.
Mhm.
Like you're just showing the good stuff, but you're not showing
Right.
what you're struggling with. So when
Right.
you're just by yourself and you have to do that self retrospection or whatever how you want to,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
you have to look at yourself. You're like, "Oh, shit, like I can't fake it. Like I can't hide this. Now I'm by myself, and that
Hmm.
I have to face it." And the hard part is most of the people don't like to face those things, but you have to.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would just do it like boom, boom, and there wouldn't be
Right.
no depression. There wouldn't be no,
Right.
all those
Right.
stuff. Everybody would be happy. But no, that's not the case. It's part of life.
Yeah. It's a continuous work, right? You're always working either on yourself, and then when you have kids, it's completely different. I mean, you'll know this.
Yep.
You have a daughter,
Yep.
and it's completely different once you have kids because for me, the moment my son was born, my life completely changed where it was no longer about me anymore,
Yep.
right?
I hear you.
So you continuously, but I'm going to bring it back to what you said earlier. And this is why it's important. When I became a parent for the first time, I just had this instinct, this thing in my head that would go like, yes, it's important, but you have to remember about yourself. And that's just kept replaying in my head. And I remember I used to say it to my wife, yes, we have a huge responsibility. The next few months, it's all going to be about this little person that we're trying to
Raise and
not let die
yeah,
for now. Like it just
yeah.
have to one day, like he's okay, he's still breathing. All right, we're good parents so far, right? It's like feed him, change him, make sure he's alive. We're good. Every day is blessed. All right, we're good. But I had just recently kind of figured out that being active and pursuing your own things was a huge thing for my mental health. So being able to continue to do those things, obviously there was a period of probably 3 to 4 years where it was almost impossible
Hmm.
because early on when I became a parent, I quickly realized that I wasn't equipped to be a parent. So I had to learn on the job, and I think the majority of people go through that. I mean, I think it's a reaction a lot of people, but I think a lot of people delay also the getting to work on yourself to become, because then you get too busy again just trying to make this little thing survive properly. That's my perspective anyway. And then I quickly realized that I needed to start chipping away at all the bullshit that I had in my head, all, and that I needed to also become way more open-minded and not as married to my ideologies, so that I can see other people's perspective, so that I don't miss out on being a better parent or a better husband and things like that. Because I don't know everything and I don't pretend that I know everything, but I am a guy that researches a lot, reads a lot, listens to a lot of shit on the internet. Like, I'm not saying I'm always right, but I'll never share anything with anybody unless I'm almost completely sure that I'm correct. And even then I always tell, like, listen, I might be wrong. Like I'll repeat that many times a lot in conversation because I always want to be open minded to the fact that someone might come along to me and tell me something that makes me go, huh, I never saw it from that perspective. And when I started realizing that perspective was extremely important, I started paying attention to where my thoughts came from. Why do I think this certain way? Why do I immediately react this way in this situation? And that made me self reflect, be introspective, and then go, maybe if I try this, maybe if I try that, and then chipping away at all that small bullshit. Then all of a sudden, one day, I just realized that, hey, life is a bit easier now.
Mm.
And then you try to trick yourself in going like, oh well, maybe it's because my kids are older, maybe it's because I'm wiser, I'm more mature, and all those things are true. But there's also a part of it is because I worked on
You did the
myself.
work.
Yep.
I
You did
did
the
the
work.
work. I did the work when no one was looking. I did the work when I was alone in my head. I did the work. I did the work the way I thought it was going to help me. And again, I'm not perfect. I'm still a work in progress. I think it's always going to be like that. I'm never going to get to a point where I'm completely, we don't, no one does, right?
Hmm.
So the goal is just next day, tomorrow, even if it's only 0.1%, you got to strive. And you're going to, like, I fail a lot. Like some days I go, man, today I wasn't a good person. That guy cut me off in traffic. I flipped him off. Like, what the fuck was I doing? Like, why did I get so aggressive? The guy probably didn't see me. And then I'm like, God damn it, you know, or I get home, my kids piss me off, and then I snap at them, and I'm like, shit. Immediately, I think that was an opportunity for me to stop, react the right way, and I immediately, sometimes, instinctively react a certain way, and I go, fuck, I need to dig that out. I need to pick at that scab. I need to, and sometimes it takes a long time.
Hmm.
You go because the instinct I've been doing it for so long that it's like muscle memory. I don't even think about it. Sometimes I react. I'm like, what the hell did I just say? What? Because I go, that's not me.
That's a reflex. Yeah.
But the muscle memory is
Yeah.
in me. Like the devil is still in me going like, nah, I'm still here. Like you might not listen to me as much, but I'm still trying to convince you that you should go and punch that guy in the mouth because he looked at you a funny way. Like, okay, calm down a little bit. You know, it's and then you realize how much it's nonstop all day. And I've accepted that. And I think once you, for me anyway, the moment I accepted that, I went, okay, it's every day is work. There's no days off, even if it's working on myself, on my goals, on my hobbies like this or like whatever it is. It's like I need to just commit and keep going. You wake up, you go to work, you work on yourself, and then you go to sleep. Hopefully you did a good job that day. I mean, I keep it simple. I try to keep it as simple as possible because I'm like, I don't know why I would ever want to complicate this even more because I think it's just living life in society today is complicated
It's
enough.
very complicated. It's not easy, and there's a lot of let's say triggers out there. There's a lot of things that can trigger you
Yes, that's
and
a
get you
good,
off.
good point.
Yeah. There's a,
Social
that could
media is really good at
oh
triggering you. It's built for that. It
yeah,
wants you to stay there and get
yeah,
angry because it
yeah.
knows that if you're angry, you're gonna swipe more and you're gonna
More,
comment, you're
more
gonna
and more.
interact with
Yeah,
this thing here. It
yeah.
wants you, right? You know, it's funny because do you pay attention to the news at all, like on a daily basis?
Honestly, I don't even need to because social media shows me.
Right,
So I'm trying to avoid it as much as possible because whenever you look at the news, there's never good news. That's one of the first thing I realized.
right. Because
There's
good news
never
doesn't
good news.
sell, right? Because it
Exactly.
doesn't
It
sell.
doesn't
Good
sell.
news doesn't sell, right?
So
They're like, ah, this guy did a nice thing for his community, and that's like 30
no,
seconds out of 30 minutes. And then, like, have you seen what is going on in LA right now?
LA, it's crazy.
Like, I was watching a video yesterday. This guy was on his dirt bike, I don't know, some sort of bike, and he was recording. So you don't see him, but you just see him panning from left to right. And he's in LA. I don't know what part of LA, but it's like there's houses and businesses. It's a busy area and everything is burnt. Businesses, grocery stores, everything is burnt, like on fire or burnt to the ground. And I'm like, this is like an apocalyptic movie. Like,
Hmm.
I'm having a hard time believing that what I'm seeing
It's real.
with my eyes is real.
Yeah.
And I'm at a point like the pandemic felt like that, right? When
Hmm.
like remember the
Hmm.
first week of the pandemic?
Yeah.
I remember the first day that we were locked at home. I had to go to the grocery store. And I remember going to the grocery store going this is the beginning of the zombie movies that everybody panics and everybody's in the grocery store
And just
buying all
grabbing
just
like
everything.
yeah, yeah,
Shelves were empty
empty.
and I was just like, this is insane how number one thing that made me realize there's a lot of people not equipped to deal with this type of stress. It's like shit. Like people quickly lose their bearings when there's a situation like this, right? It also made me realize, like I said earlier, like, holy shit, like I can wake up tomorrow and the news tells me we're gonna get hit by an asteroid in 2 weeks and that's it. And I'm like I used to think that was impossible, that was just in the movie, and now I'm starting to think that, man, we might have the aliens at our doorstep tomorrow, and
Hey,
who
for me,
fucking knows, right?
movies are just like a warning. It's just to warn us that just in case, well, we
Do you
told you, just in case.
Dude, I've started to believe exactly that because sometimes I watch a movie, I'm like, they're just like preparing us so that when
Exactly.
it happens, it's not that big of a surprise,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
God damn it. I try my best to not participate in this, what, looking at the news and stuff, but unfortunately, I'll quickly admit that I'm addicted to this thing, and that yes, I do spend a lot of time on it because of what I'm doing with my YouTube, and I do edit and use it as a tool.
As
Yes,
a
I do.
tool.
But
Yeah.
I do a lot of scrolling as well. And my algorithm is pretty messed up, right? And I've quickly realized that we all live in a different algorithm. Your algorithm is different than my algorithm. It's different than my wife's algorithm, my son's algorithm. We all live in these different worlds based on this information, because the information your algorithm might be giving you is a portrait of a completely different world than what my algorithm is giving me. And I think a lot of people obviously get consumed by everything that comes from this thing. And this thing knows it, builds this own world that it provides you. And if it shows you that the world is not that bad and you're living with these rose colored glasses, then you're not the same. My algorithm is not like that, because my algorithm is kind of like, these are all the threats that you need to be aware of and prepare. Like that's part of my algorithm. There's also a part of my algorithm that's a lot about running and a lot about working out and pro wrestling and sports. Like it's all over the place.
Hmm.
But there's also a part of it that's pretty like keeps me in line as far as being self-aware for myself and for, again, like I said before, like for my wife and for my
Family.
kids, right? Like I might exaggerate on how I perceive these threats, like all the time. Like I'll tell you, like I don't know if you're like this. I became like this more and more as my kids grew older and as this world just got more crazy. Like if we're in a restaurant, I always sit facing the door. I always want to see who's coming in.
Moose is
And
the
when
same. I didn't know why, but now I understand you guys. Yeah.
and then when someone comes in,
You
mostly
look.
men, I always look at them and I analyze them immediately. And I
Yeah.
go, is this guy a threat or
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
threat? Is there a possibility
Absolutely.
of a threat here? Because again, I'll talk to people and I'll say this to people and they're like, you're whack, you're crazy. How do you live like that? You're always in fear. I'm like, I'm not always in fear. I don't fear because I'm prepared.
Hmm.
That's the thing. I don't live in fear because I feel like I'm preparing myself. Again, I'm a warrior in a garden. I'd rather be that than a gardener in a war.
In the
Because if
war.
war comes to my doorstep and I'm just have a pitchfork because I've been just a gardener my whole life, that's going to be a harder life than if I have the skills to be able to deal with that problem. And I think I visualize that also with everything in life. I try to accumulate as many tools as possible from nerdy stuff to science stuff to physical stuff to martial arts to pro wrestling to nutrition to fitness to all that. I'm just trying to as much knowledge as possible on all those things so that one day if I need that tool, I go, oh, wait a minute, I got that in my tool
And
bag. Wait, yeah, I
yeah.
got this. I got you. And I feel, and again, it's simply my thing, as my position in this society, or I guess it's how I've positioned myself. Sometimes you have to force yourself in a position if you want to be that person.
Hmm.
I want to be that person. I want to be the person that people come to me if you need advice. I want to be able to help you. So I want to be able to be as knowledgeable without pushing it on anybody. I'll never walk up to somebody and say, "Hey, can I tell you how to live your life?" No, never. I'm not that person. I am not that arrogant to believe that I'm right on anything. But again, I live my life according to a certain standard,
Mhm.
and I believe that every day it helps me become a better version of myself. And I've gotten a lot of people come to me and ask me and tell me how important my message is on social media, and I appreciate those people. And when you get those, you go, I want, like, I think more people deserve this. I think more people
And I
need
do
this.
agree. More
I
people
think more
deserve.
people need it, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and definitely in today's time. I think
Right.
before, I think like you were saying, COVID made people realize, okay, I need to be either motivated, I need to be cultivated, or I need to be have those wise words coming from a wise man. Like, like hearing the right word at the right moment. Because sometimes you don't know where to look at, like you don't know where to go when like and I go back to the conversation that we had. But when you talk to me, you said exactly what I needed to hear at the exact moment. So that's why I'm saying that you need to do it, like keep on doing it, because then I'm sure
Hmm.
there's people out there that needs to hear it.
Right, because you never know when someone is going to need, because that person sometimes might not even know that it needs to
Needs it
hear that
exactly.
from whoever.
Yeah.
So if you don't say it, then it kind of, you go wasted. And if you do say it and that person didn't really need to hear it, well, at least you said it. But I always try to be like, all right, like I remember what it was when I was in my 20s and I was lost and
Hmm.
I had no one
To
there
guide.
to direct me or guide
Hmm.
me. And I was lost in this world and I was trying to make my own way. And then I found martial arts. And then I found a very small group of men that I could look up to and that helped me, guided, that they guided me and they taught me discipline. And then when I was given that tool of discipline through martial arts, I immediately realized that for me, the discipline was completely the number one thing I needed in order to become who I believe I was meant to be.
Hmm.
Like, this is what's been lacking in your life. It's the discipline. And then I went, well, how do I become more disciplined? Well, then I found tools that could help me become more disciplined. I did a lot of things that in the moment before doing those things, I go, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go for a 10K run right now. Like, why would I want to do that? But I'm going to go because in the end, I believe that I will profit from this, right? It's
Hmm.
like I'll plant the seed. I know I'm not going to eat the fruit from it today, but I'm going to plant the
It's
seed.
the end result that you have to keep your eyes
And
on the
every day
prize.
I'm going to water that seed. And it might take a year. It might take 6 months. It might take 5 years. It might take 30 years. Who fucking knows? But if you keep watering that seed, one day that seed will show up and you'll be like, fat, all right. And now I'm reaping what I sowed. But you got to keep watering that seed. Like you can't just tell yourself, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna do this," and then not make no plans on what you need to do to fix that and what tools do you need. It's like fixing plumbing, right? You're like, oh, I have a leak. All right. So what do I have? I've assessed the problem. Now I need to figure out what I need to do. I need to stop the leak. Okay, what do I need? I need tools. Okay, do I have the tools? No, I don't have the tools. I see like that in life. I'm like, I have a situation in life that's I'm dealing with, either depression, anxiety, whatever it is, self doubt, whatever. And I can't seem to have any tools in my bag that I can help me. So I'm either going to have to borrow some tools, which you can't do in life. So I'm either going to have to go back and figure out how do I get these tools? Maybe it's the shortcut I took in 2006 because I was too lazy to do the work. Maybe it's like a quest, right? And a video game. Like I got it, made it to the end, but I forgot a side quest to get my sword sharpened. So now I'm getting to this monster and my sword's not strong enough to kill the monster. Now I have to go back and go like, can someone sharpen my, like, I can't sharpen. I don't have the skills. Now all right, I might as well learn it. I'll learn the skills, how to sharpen my, that's who I've become. I'm like, I don't need I'm going to learn how to do it. I'm going to do it myself. Yeah, it might take me a while. But I don't care because the work that I put in is where I learn a lot more than just a skill. I learn about myself and about
Hmm.
discipline, and it helps me become better. And then I'm like, I just do those. And if I have these standards in my head where like I don't let myself off the hook 90% of the time, because sometimes I'll go like, yeah, I don't, no, I'm not going to work out today. Nah, fuck it. Now I feel like I got run over by a train today. Like I'm not. I'll sometimes I give myself some outs, but 9.5 times out of 10, I don't give myself an out. No matter how I feel, no matter how it sucks, I'm like, fuck, I got to do it. And I do it.
Hmm.
And it's that doesn't come immediately. I've cultivated that mindset. You have to. And it's a struggle every single day. You know what it is.
Hmm.
When you're an
Like I said,
athlete,
I'm in that phase right now. So like I
right?
said, like even every morning, I'm like, get up. Get out of bed. Just
Right.
get out of bed. Don't stay in bed and scroll. Just get out of bed. Just start by stretch and open your blinds and just period. Just do that at least, the bare minimum. And just to go back to
Yes.
something you were saying
Yeah.
also earlier, you said like you don't know sometimes you rather say it than not saying it at all. And
Hmm.
it's funny because I said, as you were saying it, I'm like, sometimes it's even funnier than that. Somebody told you something, you didn't catch it the first time, but when maybe a couple months later or a couple weeks, you'd be like, that's what he meant. And that's now I understand it. Now I understand what he meant by that. And now it can actually help me get through what I'm going through, like, or
Right.
help me. And
Sometimes someone will say something that you don't need that in that moment, is
moment.
what you're saying.
Exactly.
But
Yeah, exactly.
you're going to need it, right? Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, yeah, that I understand that. Yeah, that sometimes you'll hear something you're like, I don't why are you saying that? I don't need that right like and then later on you're like, fuck, okay,
That's what he meant.
now I get it. Yeah, now I get it. I also choose to believe that if you live your life in a way where you're everything is a like I don't want to sound like I believe that everything that happens in my life is a sign or is meant to happen, but kind of. I think it's like if you stop and go like, why did that happen to me? And if you really think about it, you're like, okay, I could either choose to believe that it was meant to break me, or I could choose to believe that it was meant to make me stronger. Because I think both are true. Like
Hmm.
if you go through something tragic,
Hmm.
right? If you go through something that's hard in life, someone dies or whatever it is, and you go through a moment like that, and then you have to go like, I can either let this knock me down three
Break
levels,
me.
because break me, but people don't realize when you get broken, sometimes like you don't just go down to the level below. Like sometimes like you crumble through like 4 or 5 floors and you go like, God damn, I'm back to this place. I
Hmm.
haven't been in this place for years. Like,
Hmm.
what am I doing here? Like, like, like all sometimes I'll catch myself and I'm like, dude, are you feeling sorry for yourself right now? And I go like, dude, you haven't done that in
Years.
years. Like, what the fuck are you doing here? And then you go, what brought you here? And then I go, okay. Like back to those triggers you were saying, you're like, what just triggered me going from I'm blessed to fuck my life?
I'm cursed.
Like, what? Like, dude, for the last 6 months, man, you've been just a beam of light for everybody. And all of a sudden, and now you go, okay, wait a minute. Like, what did this? Why am I here? And that goes back to self reflection. You're like, shit, I thought I had all my stuff together, but there's something that triggered me. And then again, you're forced to stop and go, like, I need to work on this.
Yeah.
And again, it's not easy, like, because life is busy outside of you working on yourself, you know?
And I think it's a constant adjustment. Like you need to, like you can have it planned in advance, but it could still not go according to plan. You know what I mean? Like it could
Right.
still,
Of course.
there's always something that can happen. So it's like, oh, okay, stop. Maybe go back a little bit,
Hmm.
readjust. Okay, now let's go ahead and go face it. I think that's what life is all about. And some of the time I realized that I crashed. Most of the time that I crashed is because I didn't want to stop. It's either I still wanted to go forward or just
Hmm.
trying to avoid it or whatever. But at the end, I was still gonna hit that wall or whatever. Like I was still gonna have to face it.
You were
And
delaying the inevitable, right?
that's it.
You're like, ah, fuck, like, how can I get around this? Then you try to
Yeah,
go around the mountain and you go, like,
yeah,
I'm gonna go this way. Then you
yeah.
spend, you know what's funny about that? Because I always try to visualize life like I'm on this path, right? Like, and I'm going through this path, but there's always, I could go this way, this way, this way, this, and there's 1,000 different directions I can go to. From this small direction switch makes is gonna make a, like there's this thing online where it shows like if you change the trajectory of a ship by a half a degree, it'll eventually bring him like kilometers off course.
Yeah.
Sometimes in life, like that's how my brain works. It's like, okay, I see it. I'm on this path, and if I deviate right now, it might not seem like a big deal. That workout you just skipped might not be a big deal. That problem that you should have dealt with, but decided to like, nah, that's too uncomfortable. It's just a little tug to the left or to the right or to the up and to the down. And then I'm just like, I'm gonna keep going through my path. I'm like, oh shit, what happens here? And then you see an obstacle, and then to that point, like sometimes you get to a mountain, you go like, I don't want to go up, and fuck, can I go around? Then you spend weeks trying to go around the problem. Sometimes it's a day, sometimes it's an hour, and sometimes it could be months out of your life where you're just like, nah, I don't want, and then you're like, fuck, I don't have a choice anymore.
Hmm.
You have to go through the wall, or you have to go up the mountain. It
Yeah.
has to be hard sometimes. It can't be easy all the
Easy.
time,
No, it can't.
right?
Yeah. And you grow from adversity. Is that what they say?
Mm-hmm.
Like you,
Mm-hmm.
whenever you face something and you past that level, like just like when you play video games, like
Mm-hmm.
Mario, just for example,
Yeah.
level one is okay, you passed that, but level three, oh, you died. Then you're like,
Right.
okay, I have to work again, and then I'm level four, level five, level six,
Right.
and all that stuff. So yeah, so I think whenever you pass that adversity, then you just grow from it, and
Right.
it's always you always get to a higher level, and whenever you get to the higher level, then a part of you, I was watching, like I said, I'm watching a lot of motivational videos right now, and it said whenever you step to another level, a part of you died, like a part of you just left is behind you,
And
like you won't,
you
yeah,
have to let it die.
yeah,
Part of you has to die.
yeah, yeah, and it's sometimes it's hard, like your old ways won't create new opportunities or new doors. So like sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you just have to say like, you know what, this didn't help me in the past. Forget this. Like I'm not
Right.
gonna do that again. It's also it's always so easy to go back to that because it's something that you knew already.
Right.
And it's something that you were used to. So it's like, okay, oh yeah, I could do it. Like you said, like I'm not gonna go to that workout. Okay, I could just train harder tomorrow. No. Or let me just have a beer. Oh yeah.
Right.
Nah, like nah, don't. Just grab a glass of water, chill, relax.
Yeah. Look, as someone that hasn't drank alcohol in the last 5+ years, that's a good analogy because sometimes I'm like, fuck, I could really drink a glass of whiskey right now. It'd be really fun. I'd really love to fucking that there'd be alcohol in this beer right now. It tastes
Mhm,
the same, but god damn, I know I wouldn't be feeling the same. But
mhm.
it's weird though, and I say that, and it rarely happens. All right, I'll be honest. Like, I ever see someone screaming in my house?
Yeah, I
I don't
just
know what's
heard that.
going on.
But I was like, okay,
Is everything all right? Hello?
I'm gonna
Give
go
me
and
a
check.
sec. I don't know. All good.
All right.
Daughter was on the couch. She's like, what? I'm like, is everything all right? She's like, yeah, yeah. I'm like, all right. My wife's on the phone with a client. I'm like, all right, no problem. Maybe she was screaming at a client. What was I talking about? I forget. Doesn't matter.
You were talking
So
just before you were saying about whiskey and all that stuff. Like sometimes you
yeah,
just grab a clap.
sometimes
Right.
I've realized that I remember at first when I stopped drinking, it was difficult. It was something that I had gone to a point where it was almost every day in my life, and I was like, it's dependent. I wouldn't say I was an alcoholic, but it was definitely getting to a point where it was like iffy. Like, what's the line here?
Mhm.
Fuck, I'm drinking a bottle of wine almost with every dinner 3 to 4 times a week, and then finishing that off by going in my office and drinking 2 or 3 glasses of whiskey before going to bed. Like, pretty sure this is really close to being an alcoholic, but I didn't feel like it. I was, I'd get up to go to work. I wouldn't miss work. I wouldn't, it wouldn't bring me to, I would never be drunk, right?
You're not alcoholic, but it's like also not depending, but it's like a bad habit that you have.
Really bad habit, right? A habit that could have quickly become like, if something would have went wrong in my life at that moment, in that time, I think it would have quickly had the
Into
possibility
it.
of becoming a problem. And I recognized that. That's why I stopped. And it changed a lot in my life because it was something that I thought that it was going to be difficult, and it ended up not being difficult. And for months, I was like, why is this not difficult? And then I went, oh, it's because I don't need it in my life. Like, my life that I live now does not require me drinking alcohol. I could be my best version without this alcohol.
Mm.
Like, I've trained my body to get to a point where, like, the moment I put food in it that's not food, it lets me know right away. It's like I'm like a very tuned engine. Like, if I eat shit, I'm
You're gonna
going to feel like shit, right? It's like, and it shows itself in a lot of different ways for me. It's like inflammation, neck pain, joint pain. Like, if I go a weekend of like, hey, we're like, give you an example. We went up north between Christmas and the holidays. We rented an Airbnb and we had fun with the family, disconnected and stuff. But you know, you're eating chips, you're eating chocolates, eating
yeah.
s'mores every night on the campfire. Like, it was blessed. Like, I was happy, but then I'd go for runs in the morning. I'm like, what? I fucking feel like shit. My body, my body does not function at all the same when I'm putting in processed food anymore.
Automatic.
Because now it's like, dude, you've been feeding this good stuff forever. Like, we're completely dependent. It's like a car with a turbo engine
I
that
was
needs,
gonna say,
right?
yeah,
That needs.
I hear you.
So I bought a new car this summer, at the beginning of summer, and it has a turbo engine in it. And the guy's like, "Don't forget, you got to put the Supreme in it."
Breathe.
And I was like, "Motherfucker!" I was like, "That's like $2 a liter." So I put it in, and I'm like, "Can I put the other?" He's like, "No, your engine's not gonna work." I'm like, "All right." So I gotta put the Supreme. So I do, because my engine's not gonna work. It's like my engine is a turbo now. Like,
Yeah,
I've leveled up to the point where I'm physically to a point where, like, yeah, like, your body requires this type of fuel now, and if you don't give it, it's not gonna work
work
well.
properly. Yeah.
Right. And again, it all goes back also to being able to be self-aware.
Mm.
I am very self-aware about all my emotional bullshit, but I'm also extremely aware of everything that goes on in my. I've kind of like paid so much attention to it that I know from a feeling, a gut, or oh, what's this feeling? I'm like, oh, I ate that stuff. Yeah, I know what that is. I'm not eating that anymore. Like, I've been able to kind of like pinpoint every single thing that triggers all the malaise in my
Mm-hmm.
life, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I use that because it's also how I approach the mental aspect of my life. There's malaises somewhere, whatever, if that's a French word, malaise. And I need to stop feeding that thing. I need to remove whatever is causing this to stay or grow. Physically, like, I've never felt better in the last few years of my life. Oh, obviously I have bumps and bruises. Man, you've been in the ring. I mean, it's, you know what it is.
Yeah,
I try to explain to someone. I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were talking about football, and I'm like, imagine playing football once a week. You play football,
I did for 10
right? So you know what it is. You are literally in a car crash once a week, and then you have a week to recover
years,
from
and
a
then
car crash
to go
to
to
do
another
it
one.
all over again, right? It's like you quickly realize that if you don't take care of your body, like, it's going to break down when you're doing shit like that, right?
Yeah,
So you played
but
offense, defense.
even play offense. I was a wide receiver, inside
Holy shit.
receiver. Yeah, inside receiver, outside receiver, but mostly inside. I was getting hit by the linebackers and all that stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
The fun stuff.
yeah. fun stuff. But I also, what you were saying about like your body's gonna like quickly realize that you're either damaged or like you need to rest or whatever, but your body's gonna send you a couple messages before that, even before that.
Oh yeah.
Uh, um, like you were saying, like the holiday. I seriously, like Steph, I don't know how to say it. Like I'm gonna say it in French. J'ai exagéré. Like I went above.
You went all out though.
Yeah, but I told some of my friends, I'm like, I felt like my skin was stretched.
Yeah, yeah.
Just to tell you how much food I was eating, I'm like, yo, I'm not feeling good. Like I'm like, what's wrong with me? And then one day I'm like, okay, let me get on that scale, and then I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, oh shit, I've gained everything back. Like I'm like, dude, I know you've been depressed lately. I know you've been
Right,
through a rough path, but like, dude, get yourself back up. Like, what's going on with you? But you need, like you said, you need that. But your body is also going to tell you, okay,
right,
cool, that's enough. Like, it's cool. But
right.
now it's enough. Like, you need to either rest or do something about
Especially there's certain things that I don't fuck with. Like when I feel that my neck is at a point where like it's because me, it's I have a lot of there's neck issues. That's the problem, right? I've taken care of a lot of the lower body issues that I had early on in my like athletic life, but I've kind of figured that out slowly. But for me, the upper back and neck is the big issue. It's the issue from not just wrestling, but even before from martial arts and not stretching properly, not warming up properly,
it.
and just being barbaric about the training sometimes. It's just like when I started martial arts, I wanted to learn everything as fast as possible. So I was in the gym. I was living in Mississauga at the time, and I was living by myself. And I did have a long after a while I did have a long distance relation with my now wife, but
Mhm.
I was alone. I was in the gym Monday, Tuesday, for Wednesday, Monday to Saturday. Sunday was the only day I didn't go in. And when I say I'm going in, it's like I'm going home after work. I'm eating, and I'm immediately by 6 o'clock. I'm in the gym, and a lot of the nights I would stay for 2 or 3 different classes. So I'll do the
Oh, two or three different.
no, some nights I was in there till they closed at 10 o'clock. I'd be like, what's tonight? Okay, so you got boxing from 6 to 7, Muay Thai from 7 to 8, and from 8 to 9, there's grappling.
Grabs.
Okay, I'll do that. Bang, bang, bang. And then I was just like, give me more. I wanted to be a sponge. And then you quickly realize, like, hey, fuck, my martial arts is really hard on the body,
Mm-hmm.
especially that I was not physically the person that I was, that I am now.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, I I've lifted weights my whole life, but not in the sense to be an athlete. Like just lift
Not with a
weights.
purpose.
Right. No purpose.
Exactly. Not with a purpose.
Now I'm doing these crazy shit and putting my body through, and not to mention getting hit a lot in the head, which was new to me. And back then, this is like mid 2000s. People knew about that
CT.
it's not good to
Yeah.
get punched in the head, but I'm 25 years old. Like fuck, I'm made of steel, man. I'm indestructible. Like I'm 25, baby. I'll never die.
Unstoppable. Like
Yeah. Then you wake up at 33 and you're like,
yeah.
oh, you know what would be a really good idea when I stopped doing martial arts was maybe I should get into pro wrestling. Yeah, that's what I did. I was like, that seems like a really smart
Good
decision.
idea.
Like, hey, I just went through 10 years of, and I'm grateful for the training. Listen, it wasn't all, it's not, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you know what I mean? It's like, hey, 33, like, you want to be, oh, yeah, I remember when you wanted to be a pro wrestler when you were 7 years old? Maybe you should chase that dream. You know what? Fuck it, let's do it. And then the next week, you're like in a train, you're at torture chamber
Yeah.
and you're like, I guess I'm doing this. Like sometimes I think about, I don't know if it's like this for you, about how you made the decision to, because being a pro wrestler, I don't know for you in your life how big of a deal it is, but for me, it was a pretty big deal, right? It's like, it's that 7 year old in me. I say 7 year old because I was 7 years old when I first saw wrestling.
Do you remember your
I'll,
first? Do you still
a hundred
remember?
percent.
The
So I'll
first,
tell you that. Do you want the story? I'll tell you
yeah,
the
because
story.
I'll tell you mine after. Like, yeah, for sure.
Right. So okay. When I was young, I lived at my grandparents. Okay, and with my mom. And on weekends, around the age of 6 or 7, my mom would bring me. So we didn't have a back. This is 1986, 1987. Okay, around that time, VCRs were a thing. For those people listening right now, there was these things before. They were called VCRs. You
VCR.
put tapes in it and to watch movies. Google it, you'll see what it looks like. All right,
Yeah.
because some of you listening right now probably don't even know the fuck it is. So we didn't have a VCR at home. And back then you'd have 13 channels. And I wrestling at that time was only on once a week on Saturday night at 11 o'clock where I lived. So I had never had the opportunity to even know what it was.
Same for me.
Right. So one day my mom said, okay, so we can go to the video
So,
store and rent the VCR machine, and you could rent yourself like 2 or 3 movies, and then you get to keep the VCR for the whole weekend. So Friday night and Saturday night, you have to bring it back Sunday before noon. I remember this. Like the video store in my town became the place I would go. I would get on my bike and I would go because when I was 6, my mom bought me a Nintendo,
mhm,
and I knew of the video store because every weekend on Friday nights I'd go straight to the video store after
get a game.
school and I'd rent Nintendo games because you had to be there before the good games were all gone.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, most
Right,
definitely.
right,
Friday night, yeah, before.
right. So then they were like, hey, we rent VCRs. I'm like, oh, I want to watch movies. And so I remember the first thing, I remember I would rent a lot of Police Academy. I rented, I rented the Rocky movies. Like I was huge into Rocky. Like
Same here.
I grew, right? I grew up watching Rocky. He was like my father. You know what I mean? Like even today, every time he's on TV, I sit down. It's like I'm
Same
watching
here.
my father. I'm watching my dad on TV. This guy's ass right now. That's me. And I remember there was this section in the video store completely separate. No, not that section. It was a different section. We had that section too. We had that section too. They had a wall, and it all it had was wrestling tapes. And so it was a pretty small section at the time. And we're talking 86. Like there was not much as far as wrestling material to rent.
Hmm.
And the first one I rented was WrestleMania 3. I brought I bought that tape and I got it home and I watched for the first time. I was like, I'm gonna watch this. And I don't remember any of the matches except two. Obviously the main event between
Andre Jack.
Hogan and Andre.
Yeah.
I remember sitting there and going, this is amazing. This is crazy. Like, but the match that made me a wrestling fan
Match.
was Macho Man versus Ricky Steamboat. Okay. I remember sitting there and going like, who's that guy? Macho Man. And going like, that's who I want to be. Because I liked Hogan as a kid. Yeah, I liked the persona of Hogan. But for some reason, I knew I was never going to be 6'6", 300 pounds like I saw him. I don't know how tall he is, but he's bigger than Macho. But then I looked at Macho Man. I'm like, that looks like a regular sized man,
Hmm.
obviously with a good physique. And he immediately became, I'm like, I don't care if he's the bad guy or the good guy. I'm like, Macho Man's my guy.
Same.
And from that moment on, every weekend, I would rent one movie, one wrestling tape, and that quickly became 2 wrestling tape to 3. Like there were no movies anymore. Just give me all the wrestling. And I caught up to all the Survivor Series, all the SummerSlam. Every time they'd come out, I'd rent it. And I had some of my friends that were into it too. So sometimes we'd get together, rent it, and watch them at their place or my place. And then we'd just fucking go crazy. You go crazy. And I remember playing wrestling in my bed. I broke my bed so many times that my grandma was like, my grandfather was like, I'm not fixing this bed. You're going to sleep in this broke ass bed. Like you have to. Yeah. And I did. I remember sleeping in my bed broken. I didn't care. I told myself one day I'm going to be that. I want to be, I think it was more about being Now I realize it. I don't think I wanted to become a pro wrestler. I wanted to become those guys.
Yeah.
I wanted to have that. Like, look at those. They're like,
Like they're heroes and they're
right.
human. Like, you
It's
know,
the
like they're
same. It's the same reason why I love for being. I said Rocky. It was. I want to be that guy.
yeah.
I want to be the underdog that beats the big Russian dude. I want to be that guy,
But that's why
and
me,
that's why I love wrestling.
like you said, it's a mix of Rocky. I realize now that you're saying it, it's a mix of Rocky. But also, I remember when I was a kid, it was WrestleMania 5, Ultimate Warrior versus Hogan, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, right. That's no. That's WrestleMania. Uh,
It's the sixth.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. The fifth one was Macho Man versus Hogan. The Mega Powers implode.
okay, yeah, okay,
Because WrestleMania 4 is the tournament where Macho Man wins the tournament and wins the championship. And then in the fifth WrestleMania was where Macho Man was the heel champion and Hogan was the face
yeah, okay.
chasing the thing. The sixth one was Hogan versus Warrior in Skydo.
That particular one changed my life, and it was the Ultimate Warrior running with the belt and just running the whole that changed everything. But I realized also when you said Rocky, it's the Rocky 3 movie with Clubber
Yeah,
Lang. Hogan is in it. And
right,
then I was in the mix because I'm like, I've seen that guy, but I don't like, like as a kid, you don't remember, like, you don't know the timeline or you don't understand everything. So I'm like, I've seen that guy and I seen this black guy also in wrestling, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm like,
right. Mr. T,
wasn't he?
that's
Yeah,
right.
Mr. T. So I'm like, isn't he a good guy? So I'm all in the mix. So then for me, when I watch Rocky, I'm a big Rocky fan. Like I told you, in French, I could give you all the like, it's playing. I could tell you, I can
Right.
yeah, I could say the same words as he's saying. So
It's funny you say that because it was on TV during the holidays, and
it's
me and
most
my
of the
wife
time
were
it
watching it,
yeah,
and I was saying the lines before, and she was laughing. So, and then my son too, for a while, he was sitting on the couch, and he'd be like, "Jesus Christ, do you know this movie by heart?" I'm like, "Bro,
yeah,
I've seen this movie like 150 times."
crazy, crazy, crazy. But you're right, and I think it was at that point that I said to my mom, I said one day I'm gonna be a wrestler. But for her, it was like more of like, no, you're not.
Right,
I won't let you. And I was like, I'm
right,
still gonna do it. I'm still gonna do it. So when I was a kid, moving back, we were in Montreal, but then we moved to Laval. We didn't have the cable. So like you were saying, we didn't have anything. We didn't have we I know you said like there was only 13 channels and everything, but then
right.
after a while I think everybody started to have the video way or something like that.
Like a box that would
Yeah,
add like 30, like
yeah, 30
30
something.
channels.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
I didn't have it. I didn't have it either. We just had a couple of channels and stuff, but I've it was a Saturday and it was 12 and I put my TV on CFCF 12. I remember I was just going through the channels, and then it was Monday Night Raw, but it was on Saturday at 12, and I
Oh,
was
they would
just
replay it.
yeah replay, and I just lost it, bro. I said, "What is this going on?" And then my mom was like, "What are you listening to?" I'm like, "Wrestling," and she's like, and my mom was into wrestling. She used to go and watch the Rougeau at the Pierre
Really?
Sauvé Arena and all that. Yeah, yeah, but I was too young to go there. So she was
Right,
just
right,
going, and as I said again, I'm like, Mom, remember, I'm gonna tell you again, I'm gonna be a wrestler one day. And then I decided, and it's funny that you said that. Like you said, I played football for 10 years. I did martial arts for 10 years, and then I decided to be a bad boy and be in the streets and do stupid stuff.
right.
And then COVID hit. Before COVID, I'm a fitness instructor, trainer, working at the same time. And then COVID hit, everything stopped. And I go, but right before COVID, I go to WrestleMania 35 and I see it with my own eyes, Kofi winning the title, and I'm like, shit, I should have at least tried it, I should have at least.
You were a part. Okay, so when you went to WrestleMania 35, you had kind of given up on that dream. It wasn't. It wasn't in your wheelhouse.
It wasn't, but I think my girl at the time realized how much I loved it and wanted to like at least be like, okay, if you're not gonna be if you're not gonna do it, at least I want you to watch one WrestleMania. I've never been to
Right.
WrestleMania in my life. So I'm like, yo. And she's the one who bought the ticket and everything. I'm like, yo, you're crazy.
That's
Then I'm
awesome.
like, okay, let me just go and watch it. But then I remember as soon as I saw Kofi won the title, I'm like, shit, I could have done it. Like I should have tried at least. Like I
Mhm.
know if I put my head into something, I know I can achieve to at least the bare minimum of something, like the quarter of it, maybe even late.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like at least a taste. So I'm like, okay. And then a year after, I remember receiving a text by Drew, and he's like, "Come pass by for a free practice." And I said, "Okay, let me give it a try." And then from first practice till now, I said, "No, I'm not giving it up. I'm not giving." But I'm like, I'm just mad that I didn't try it earlier. But at the same time, like you said, everybody got their own timing. So I guess it was
Yeah, me too. For years, I was like, man, imagine if I got into this instead of getting into martial arts when I was 24. But then I go, wait a minute. Then I would have missed out on all the
you would
things
have
that
not be the
martial arts
same
taught me.
wrestler. I don't think you
Right.
would have been the same wrestler that you are now. Then.
But I wouldn't be the same person
Yeah, true.
because
Exactly.
martial arts taught me, like I said earlier, discipline and just it taught me a lot.
Hmm.
It taught me a lot. I think it prepared me for that because it's even today, like even as much mainstream as you want to say professional wrestling is, like they're on fucking Netflix now. Like that's pretty badass, right? And I think that you're going to see a new generation of young kids now wanting to be wrestlers, right?
Wrestlers.
But I've recently got back into the ring, as you probably know.
How
So
was it? How did you feel?
I won't lie. I'll be honest with you, right? So I've been thinking about this for a long time and I was afraid. I was scared. And then one of the reasons why I was scared is because I was afraid of honestly of getting hurt. Because I knew how certain parts of my body are like I I feel like it's like dude it's on the line, and I go
One bad bump and it could change everything. Kind of
maybe not to that extent. Like I don't think like I'm at the point where like I'm rarely close to something severe happening. But you know as well as I do, it's professional wrestling. It doesn't matter if you're hurt or not because one bad thing can happen, one bad slip up and yeah, you might break something, you might concuss yourself like and I couldn't let that go. And when I came back about a year and a half ago to torture, and I actually wrestled, for I did like 5, 6 matches for torture. I remember every single match. I was, when you're doing something, but you're in the back of your mind, you're like, don't get hurt, don't get
you
hurt.
told me
Like
that. Yeah.
I was holding
Well,
myself
yeah.
back
Yeah. You told me.
because it's like one thing that these 5, 6 matches, that 6 months period where I came back briefly,
Mhm.
taught me is that you can't be a pro wrestler and fear that you're going to get hurt. And that's why I stopped. That's why I didn't go back in September because it's like I got to the point. It's one of the reasons why I left martial arts. I stopped trying to punch through and become a pro because for years I was trying to become this pro fighter. I had amateur fights. I got a boxing amateur fight. I got 3 MMA amateur fights. I've got countless grappling tournaments. And I've sparred with crazy guys. But I got to a point where the instinct of just like go all out and don't be afraid of anything. Every time I'd spar and every time I'd spar, I'd be like, oof, like I might get hurt here. Like I might like, and the moment that creeps in, that you're done as a fighter. You can't like that. You can't fight afraid. You can't doubt yourself. Dude, when you get in a cage there with another human being that's trying to fucking rip your head off, you cannot have one inkling of self doubt. And I was
I think you said you like it's unsafe. Like something like that. Like it's not safe to be
it's not safe
yeah,
at all
at all.
because if all you're thinking about is don't get knocked out, don't get knocked out, don't get knocked out, guess what's going to happen?
You're gonna
You're
get
going
knocked.
to get knocked out. And I I realized that. And then I went into wrestling and for the first 4 years I was slowly making my way, making a name for myself and I got injured a few times and I pushed through the injuries thinking like, don't be a bitch. Just,
Hmm.
man shit,
Hmm.
like I still live with that credo to a certain extent. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of times I don't want to go for a run because my body's banged up or I don't want to go for a workout. But I never let it stop me. Sometimes I should, but I don't. And I think it's good and bad, but I think it's more good for me than bad. So when I got to a point in wrestling, I was like, nah, I can't. So I reflected for about a year, but I always wanted to go. There was a part of wrestling I missed, and I'm like, man, dude, I need to. And I also a part of it I need to close this door by myself. I can't let it be because I was afraid. I think I have some unfinished business here. I think I have something to offer, and I need to give it everything I got for even if it's only for a year or two or three. Give it everything you got, and then when you're satisfied, then you could stop. So when I just said fuck it. So a couple of weeks before Christmas or a week before Christmas, I just sent a message to one of the promoters that I had worked with in the past. But Loic, you know Loic, right?
I know him, but I'm not personally. But
Right.
I heard great
You've
stuff
never
about him.
wrestled for him?
No, I want to. That's the
Right.
thing. I really want to. I didn't want before for other reasons.
Right.
Not for him, but for the promotion for other reason. But now, like, I'm really looking forward to like 2025.
Right.
I'm looking to get out there. So, like, yeah, that
That's great. So so I had always had a great relationship with him. I had wrestled for him. I was his first champion at BCW. Like he trusted me and always treated me with respect and it was always good to me. And I know people from that area through my son playing baseball.
okay,
He's played a lot. Dude, I spent a whole summer in Valleyfield because my son was playing on a team that was practicing in that area. So I know a lot of, I know a few people from there.
mm,
So for me, I was like, well, if I'm going to wrestle anywhere where I have a chance to sell certain tickets, I'm going to start here. So out of the blue one day, I said, you know what, Steph? I said, stop fucking overthinking this. Just send him a fucking message and be done with it. I sent him a message. I'm like, if he says no, he says no. If he says yes, dude, he was so happy. He's like, bro, he's like, here's my date. Can you make them all? And then I gave him my availabilities. He's like, are you available on the 27th? I'm like, can you fit me in? Because their show was booked.
mhm,
I think so. It was a couple of weeks before. He's like, bro, I'll make, don't worry. I got you. I'm like, all right. And then I treated that match like, all right, let's see. If I don't feel this, I'm out. I'm not continuing this. If I can't be, and luckily I was in a four-way, so I was able, it wasn't like, it
okay,
was like kind of like a soft welcome. I wouldn't call it like a complete comeback. It was just like let me take a bump. Let me take a
okay,
couple bumps. Let me give a couple chops. Let me sell, see if I can still sell. Let me see how I feel, how I can connect with the crowd,
hmm,
the reaction, and blah, blah, blah. And then when I was done, I obviously right away we booked a match for the 18th, and it was just like, okay, all right. I'm not going to be the same as I was on the 27th. I'm going to tell you this right now. Now that I know I could still do this, yeah, like people better watch out. Like I don't mean to say it like that. I don't mean to say it like that, but like I'm coming for a lot of these spots. Like I think that's the attitude I need to have.
yeah,
And even if I'm only wrestling, here's the thing. And I know what you're supposed to do as a wrestler. Wrestle as, and I believe in this if you're a young wrestler
tell me.
and you're trying to break in the business.
That's
You
what I'm trying
need
to do. So I'm all in.
to wrestle as much as you can. Doesn't matter where. If you can get in that ring, and again, this is my perspective.
Mm,
This is the mindset that I have when I do anything.
same from yeah, I hear you.
The only way, and it's not the only way, I'll rephrase that. One of the most important way to get better at being a professional wrestler is by wrestling in front of a live crowd. Because the training is very important. And if you're able to have a life where you can continuously train like you do, because I don't have that benefit in my life right now. Unfortunately, I prioritize other stuff that I want to prioritize before the time to train. And that's on me. I know it might make it in a way where it takes longer for me to get back into being a decent wrestler in the ring, but I have priorities and I choose to my priorities to have them in a certain way. But I believe that if you're going to get better at this art of professional wrestling, you need to spend as much time wrestling in front of a live crowd against a whole sorts of different wrestlers.
Absolutely.
You need to understand how it is to work with a big man, how to work with a high flyer, how to work with this personality, with a
Much as
veteran,
a
with
vet,
a
as a
rookie.
rookie, yeah, we're on the same page. I get.
You need to be in the you know there's a yeah, you need to be in the shit. Like you
Yeah.
need to be in the jungle if you're going to become better at this. And it's like, and also, and I've seen you do it, so bravo. I'll give you this. I saw it today in you. You need to make your own way. You need to push people out of the way. You need to have an attitude of like, this is my year. You guys might think I'm a shitty wrestler, or I'm a rookie and I'm still green at this,
Mhm.
but I believe that I have the potential to be great. So I'm out here becoming great. All I'm asking for is an opportunity for you to show you how great I
Right.
could potentially be. And you cannot do that by limiting yourself. You have to accept that wrestling is a physically demanding sport.
Mhm.
You have to accept that it's going to hurt.
Mhm.
You have to accept that things are going to hurt for the rest of your life. My neck is going to be fucked up from all the shit I've done, not just for a week, for two, but this is going to be, and I'm a fucking athlete from a young age. I've put my body through the ringer, not as bad as certain people, but I have some fucking scar tissue, and I accept that to a point where, like, this might sound sadistic, but I fucking enjoy it.
Love that. Yeah,
I
yeah. No, I know what you
enjoy
mean.
being that guy.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
give me,
You need it.
like,
Sometimes you
give
kind of
me,
need it. Yeah,
right.
you
It's
need it.
like a motivation. Like,
Yeah,
bitch, do you remember who you are? Like, holy
yeah,
shit.
yeah, yeah. Yes, that.
And here's one last thing I'll say about wrestling, and it might be the last, unless you have something else to say.
No, I'm pretty.
I don't like making these so long that people go like, Jesus, like before I used to do these for like 3 hours, and it's all fun. Like I could talk with you for 3 hours. I know
We
I
could
can.
talk for more, but I.
Right, right. It's like people's attention span goes by 45 seconds now. So it's like, dude, like I break these in small parts, and people listen to this. But anyway, past that. Like there's a part of this is why I love professional wrestling, because there's a part of it where you get to become someone that you you cannot be
In everyday.
in real
Yeah,
life, right?
really.
So when I was 4 years in, right before the pandemic, I was at a point where I was wrestling pretty much 3 to 4 times a month, almost every weekend. I was working some big promotions, and there was torture. There was all these different promotions. I was
I think
I used to be working
FCL
at BC,
also. I think you were.
right? FCL. I was in BCW. I
Yeah.
was Victory Ring.
Yeah.
Like I was making a name for myself, and it was great. It was great. And I became Savage Paulson. I became him. I I had that guy inside of me from the age of 7, from watching those Rocky moves. But I cultivated this persona that I kept inside because I knew that if I let this guy out, you guys would treat me like I was who is this mental case? So I didn't know how to be. Wrestling provided me with the platform to let that inner savage, I call him a savage because I think Drew was the first one to call me that or something, but it just clicked that that's the name I'm going to give this thing inside of me that's going to become. And then through cultivating that character, I got to a point where there was no more Stéphane Paulin. That
Mm,
guy barely existed anymore. I know this might sound like, dude, are you overthinking this? I'm not. I became Savage Stefan Paulson. And Savage Stefan Paulson is a completely different, quote unquote, animal than the father and the husband, right? And I got to a point where there was no disconnecting both of them. I wanted to keep Savage Paulson close enough that I didn't need to become someone completely different. I didn't have to play a character.
Mm.
It was like Cole said, I just needed to turn the volume to 11 and let's ride. But it also helped me to become the better father and the better husband, because the attitude that Savage the attitude that I was quote unquote faking
Mm.
when I was becoming a wrestler, I then realized that if I could use this in life and it can make me better.
Mm.
I'm not playing a clown on there. My character is not something so completely different than me. You know what I mean? I'm not bashing someone that plays a clown. It's not what I mean.
That's a character, but that was not you.
Right. I had to take my background and make it what I could make it.
Mm.
And when it got taken away from me, it took me a long time to figure out what my quote unquote identity was, because I was like, dude, I was a pro wrestler. That's what I was. But that's not what I was. But for a while there, that's what I identify as.
Mm.
And when you remove the platform and you don't get to be that thing anymore, and I tried for a little bit to keep being that thing outside of wrestling. And then I realized that I needed wrestling to be that person. Because the longer I spent off outside of this business, the more I became civilized. I'll
Mm.
use civilized as a word. And I don't like being civilized. I won't lie. I don't like being civilized.
Because it's like you're in the box. Then you're just like in the la mastic on like everybody. Like you just
Right.
yeah
You're just following the masses,
yeah.
doing what everything else is doing. And I'm like, one of the things I loved about being able to tell people that I'm a pro wrestler was their reaction.
You're a
Like,
pro
you're a
wrestler.
pro wrestler?
Yeah.
Like WWF? Like WWE? Like, yeah. And then you go, oh, like, that's crazy. And then people see you from a completely different perspective. And
Complete.
that's what I love, right? And then you go, wait a minute, like, do they have more respect for me or do they have less respect for me? Because some people will look down on you. You're like, you're a pro wrestler. But most men that I told it to, they'd be like, holy shit.
Shit. Yeah.
Everybody wanted to be a pro wrestler when they were
At
a
one
kid.
point, of
Everybody
course,
wanted to
of
be,
course.
or either everybody wanted to be a football player or a basketball player, whatever it is. Everybody wanted to be the superstar.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to be Michael Jordan. Everybody wanted to be Hulk Hogan. And in a weird way, I got to live that dream, that life. And bringing it back to why I went back, it's because I missed that.
Mm.
And I think in a weird way, I'm at a season in my life where I need a little bit more Savage Paulson than I need Stefan Paulin.
Different.
That Stefan Paulin did great for the last few years, and he's a great father. He's become a way better father. He's worked hard, and he's a better husband, and he keeps working at becoming better. My wife might not say, but I truly believe that I am. I'm just kidding. She'd say it. She's a big fan. She's a big fan of mine. Thank God. But I quickly realized that I needed more Savage Paulson in my life. And I needed to find a way to bring that persona, not only in wrestling, because I knew that wrestling wasn't going to be there forever. Because physically, I can't do this till I'm 50. I could, but I choose not to. I have other shit I want to accomplish in life. And even though it might be related to wrestling later on, I'm not going to be a performer till I'm 50. I just choose not to be that person. I have other shit I want to do. But right now, I need to be that guy. And the only way that I get to be closer to that Savage is when I have pro wrestling in my, when I have the platform to express that person,
So,
that version of myself.
do you mean like once you get inside the ring, or it's just by training you're still able to, or like you
No,
need to?
the moment I know that I have a match, the
Oh,
moment that he confirmed to me that these are what everything changed.
perfect. I got
Like Savage woke up and went, "You need me? All right, let's get to work." Like we've been working in the background all this time, and you're like, "Are you running or are you lifting weights?" Because the when I wrestle, I adjust my training. I do less running,
Okay.
more weightlifting. Like everything has a purpose in my life. Like I lift more weights than the last few months because in back of my mind I felt like I might be attempting a return in 2025. So I started running less and I started lifting heavier weights, or at least making sure that my body was way better held together. And so that's an aspect of that. So I have to shift a lot of different things in my life. But one thing that I'm sure of is that once that I got the confirmation that like December 27th, you're in that match. January 18th, you have a match. February, whatever the next dates are, it's like it's back to business, baby. It's like closer I get to the date, it's like I try my best to be fun around people, but it's like it triggers this thing. I need to become this guy. And then when I step in through that curtain, then it magnifies itself.
Mm-hmm.
Then the father and husband, it still exists, but it's the reason why I'm doing these things completely change. You know what I mean? Like whatever lie you want to tell yourself to become vicious or aggressive or whatever it is, just keep telling that shit. And so it's like, but it's also a work in progress where I understand that there's a theatrical part to it, but that I am really trying to toe the line of being as realistic and keeping it as, I guess, realistic without being such a fantasy. So that's why I try to keep everything close to the heart. So as I try to portray the same person when I'm doing these things or close to anyway, and then try to move away from that, right? It's like, it'd be weird if I played this fucking asshole of a character, this super heel, but then
In life, you're
6 times out of the day on my Instagram, I'm like, praise God and have a blessed day. And I hope you're working hard. Don't quit. I
yeah.
believe in you. Like,
Never give up. You're good.
right. I want to be that guy, but when I step into that ring, I can't be that guy. And I'm not just saying that to be from a pro wrestling aspect. I'm saying that like for me, the shit's real. Like whatever you want to say about pro wrestling, that it's scripted or fake, like this shit's real, bro. Like
Mhm.
get in that ring. Just
Yeah.
quickly realize that the only thing that's not real about this is the ending. Everything that goes from the bell to bell. If I mean, there's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. It's vicious. It's crazy,
Yeah.
but it's fun as hell.
Fun. It's
Fun as hell, and it gives me an opportunity to express a part of myself that I don't get to express anywhere else. And I am extremely grateful for it. Thank you. Thank you. Brother, I appreciate you very much, man, that you took time out of your busy life to come on to this thing and talk with me, man. I appreciate it.
pleasure, my man.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate the fact that you invited me for that, man.
Bro, like I know people I can have conversations with. When I sat with you at Torture a few weeks ago before Christmas and we had a 15-20 minute conversation, I'm like, this is the type of dudes that I like to talk with. And I knew that anytime, any place, doesn't have to be on the microphone, doesn't have to be in the camera.
Mm.
It's like if you need a conversation to have to work shit out, that's the type of guy you call. I'm grateful and blessed to have a few of those people inside my life.
Well, I'm glad to have you now because I didn't have a lot. Like, of course, you know a couple of them, but now
Right.
I can definitely add you to the list. So I'm very
Well,
happy about
that is appreciated. I appreciate that very much. Like I said, it's I think men need to, especially nowadays, I think
it.
that we need to, I'm not saying we need to stick together, but we need to support each other. We need to support each other and we need to help each other become better. We can't be just men that let other men get carried away with being foolish with their lives.
Mhm.
Because this is because of my perspective. I think that if we all worked hard, did hard things, realized that we all have a purpose on this planet, and that if we all worked hard at figuring out what that purpose was so that we can give our gift to the world, I think just if more people had that mindset, I think that we would be in a way better place in general in society than where we are right now.
That's
And it does, right? It worries me more for my kids and my kids'
true.
kids
My daughter,
than
yeah,
it worries for me, right?
yeah, absolutely
I don't want my kids growing up in a world where it's going, where I think it's going,
going.
where
Same here. Same.
we're led by weak people. Like we need strong figures in our life. It doesn't matter if it's men, women, or whatever. We need strong leaders.
Absolutely.
And I feel like we are missing a lot of that today. And it has to start with your immediate circle, with your kids, your wife. That's it. Don't focus on the masses, focus on yourself and the immediate ripple, the first ripple. Think about who does the first ripple hit. Is it your kids? Is it your wife? Those, everything outside the first ripple is kind of the opportunity for your kids and wife to ripple, have their own ripple into this thing. And I always go, if I have a positive ripple effect on them, they can go out in the world just like I go and try to have that same positive effect. And I think if we just spend more energy on that, it would be way better. We'd have a lot less issues. Let's
Definitely
just say it like that, right? There's be a lot less fighting online and hating on each other, and there'd be a lot more support instead of
support.
tearing each other down, you know? I hate it. But I try my best to do my part, and I think if more people did that, then and again, I'm not saying I'm right, but my intentions are from a place come from a good place.
Mm.
So even if I'm wrong, my intentions are never bad. They're never bad. If someone tells me, dude, you're wrong. Oh, fuck. Really? Why? And then they explain to me because this, I'm like, oh shit. Okay. So I won't be saying that to people anymore, or I
Mm.
won't be like that anymore. But yeah, my intentions are never ever wrong. I try to be as genuine as possible. Sometimes I come out maybe wrong. I don't try my best. Try my best. Brother, I appreciate you. I appreciate again, this is an hour and a half conversation that I feel I needed and I appreciate that. I enjoy these conversations and that's the goal of doing what I'm doing. Talking to people. And the reason why I share them is because I think it's important for certain people to hear these types of conversation. I think we
Absolutely.
need more of these types of conversation to be available, especially to young men that might not have the guidance. And I'm just, again, I'm not sitting here and saying I have all the answers, but I'm 44 years old and I've lived a certain type of life that have allowed me to gain a certain experience that
Mm.
I know can be important for certain people. So, and I feel that if I didn't put out this energy and I didn't try to help others that are might be in a similar situation that I was or whatever it is, then I'm not doing my part.
Your
I'm not, and I also choose to believe that this is what I was meant. That's why I was placed on this earth for. This is the gift God gave me. It's time to go to work. It's like, all right, bro, go to work.
Well, stay
All right,
savage,
man.
bro. Stay
Yeah,
savage.
stay savage, man. Much love and stay savage. I try to bring both together. There, you need love, but you need to fucking be savage once in a while. You need to try to merge both, bro. I appreciate you, and I hope we get to do this again.
All
All right, I'll talk to you soon. Cheers again. All right.